Good morning. One more time, good morning. Welcome to Oneida County. And thank you, Governor and Sandra, for being with us today. And let's give a warm welcome to all the riders that came with the Governor this morning. This is always a special time of year in the summer when we get together, although we do it each and every day with family and friends, but summertime brings out the best when it comes to family and friends, and that's what today is about. And before we get started, I want to acknowledge some of the special guests that have joined us here today with the Governor. First on the list, Senator Joseph Griffo. Senator. Our Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. And as we sit here in the Utica Memorial Auditorium in the great city of Utica, the mayor of the city, Robert Palmieri. Mayor. And his sister, literally down the road from the city of Rome, the mayor of Rome, Jackie Izzo. Jackie. Also joined by members of the Oneida County Board of Legislature, Phil Sacco, the Minority Leader. Thank you, Phil. From the Utica Council, Joe Marino, Bill Phillips, Jack Lemeticote, and Ed Buchero. Thank you. We also have so many others here, just to mention some of the other partners. From Planned Parenthood, the Manager of Education, Emmy Petronio, is here. From the Health Center of Rome and Oneida, the Director, Catherine Mungari. Bob Schofield, the CFO of the Mohawk Valley Health Systems. Thank you, Bob. And Bassett Healthcare, Hospital President, CEO Michael Ogden. Thank you. And the Oneida County Director of Health, Phyllis Ellis. Thank you, Phyllis. And from the American Cancer Society, Vice President of Government Relations, Bill Sherman. Thank you all for being here. There's so many other organizations present. I want to thank you for all being here with us today on this special day. As I said as we began, there's nothing more important than the health of our loved ones. Family and friends are the most important piece of our lives, and we're concerned about them each and every day. But as we stay here today, and today alone, breast cancer will claim 40,000 precious lives across this nation. The fact is that no one is immune. It can affect women of all ages, ethnicities, genetic dispositions, and that's what makes early detection so critical. But that is why, under the leadership of Governor Cuomo, New York State's Get Screened, No Excuses, that campaign is making a real difference. Up until now, too many women have had to face the simple obstacle of simply having a regular mammogram. Today, because our governor is fighting for women's health, New Yorkers no longer have to worry about insurance hurdles for mammograms. They can attend extended hours in hospitals and clinics to get screened. The Get Screened, No Excuses campaign focuses its attention on our most vulnerable communities, low income and underserved, and it provides women with the education they need to get screened and get treated, and it sends a message to all women all across the state each and every day. Governor has always put public health and safety at the forefront of his administration. He is saying loud and clear to all of us that our health, your health, is a priority in this state. And today, we are here to help him get his message out. And so it's my great honor and pleasure to introduce the governor's strongest partner in this fight, a woman who has been a champion and a leading voice on this cause throughout the world, not just New York State, not just the United States, but throughout this world. Please welcome, give a warm Oneida County welcome. It's my honor to introduce the lovely Sandra Lee.
Thank you. It's so nice of you to stand up. It's so nice of you to be here with us today. But to stand up, you don't just stand up and applaud me, which I appreciate. You applaud all the men and the women who go through breast cancer and the families and friends who struggle and fight it alongside their loved ones. I do want to thank all of you for coming out today, because I believe that this is a very important initiative and a very important cause, because the women and the men who are diagnosed with breast cancer, many of them women, are the foundation of their families and of their friend groups. And it's really important that they stay here a long time so they can take care of everybody else, right? I'm pretty good about getting my mammograms every single year on the dot. But a few years ago, there was a year that somehow got away from me. And the following year, my doctor called me and said, you know, you really need to get in for your mammogram. And I said, I was just in for the mammogram. I just went in. She goes, no, honey, you didn't just go in. I go, yes, it was last August. I go in every August. I have my August date. It's my August date. She goes, nope, honey, you missed August. That was 2 years ago. You haven't been in. I was stunned that a whole entire 2 years had gone by and I hadn't even thought about it. That's how fast life moves for all of us, myself included. So after that happened, I was very diligent and I decided to change all my appointments to May. So I got it out of the way before school let out and before the summer vacation and before back to school started. And I was so glad that I did, because this year in particular I knew would be a very hectic year. So I went even a couple months earlier than I normally go. I went in March. And what turned into what I thought was going to be a routine checkup was 90 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. And some of you will not appreciate what I'm about to say, but some of you will know exactly what I'm going to say. Squish, 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 squish. It's not pleasant, but it's important and it's required. And they came back and said, you know, you have early stage breast cancer. I don't have a lot of time to spend being sick. Nobody does. And it's not something that I wanted to go through. It's something I thought was going to be 3-4 months long. It turned out to be an entire year. And I thank God every day that it was an entire year and not 3 and 4 and 5 years, which many, many people suffer through. I was a lucky one. And I was lucky enough to have a platform to really share my experience, which I wasn't planning on doing. But that's what I do. I share where I come from. I never forget who I am. I share that I was raised on welfare and food stamps. I share life hasn't been easy. And I show people how to make life better, whether it's through my TV shows, my books, or my magazine. And I am very, very fortunate to have a partner that, as he watched me go through this and as he went through it with me, was able to really make a difference for all the women in this state and the men, so that you guys can go out and you can get your screenings for free. You can do it when you have time, because the clinics and hospitals will be open for you. And if you don't know where to go or how to do it, there's even going to be a website launched with a navigator, so you will have someone available to guide you through it. So now there really aren't any excuses. And I certainly don't want to see anyone let 2 years go by like I did before they got their screening. And I just thank God it wasn't this past year. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to me, the most important man in this state, our governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. It is our pleasure. It is our pleasure to be here. I want to thank all of you so much for coming out. It's a pleasure to be back in Utica and Oneida. And let's give First County Executive Tony Picente, who's doing a great job. He's a great partner to me in the state. He's a great personal friend. Tony Picente, let's give him a round of applause. And the mayors who are here, and my colleagues, Senator Griffo and Assemblyman Brindisi, and we stole one of Utica's best when we have our Commissioner Rowan DeStito, who's now working for the state. Let me take a moment before we begin and talk about the topic of the day. This has been an ugly period in this nation. Past few months, we've seen the anger, frustration, anxiety of people getting worse and worse and worse. You can feel it in the political environment. But these past few days have been especially disturbing. There's been acts of violence that are seemingly inexplicable. What happened in Louisiana, the death there, Minnesota, and then last night 12 police officers shot in Dallas, Texas. They still have to get the specifics on who and why would do such a sick and mad act. But the preliminary information suggests that it was related to the previous deaths and an anger and a tension between police and the community. You know, you look at the past few days and you get the sense that America's demons are challenging America's better angels. I think the country, like a person, our strengths can be our weakness. Our greatest strength can be our greatest weakness. This country's greatest strength is its diversity. We're not one race, one religion. We come from all different places all across the globe. We're black, we're white, we're brown, all different sexual orientations, and then we made one community from this diverse group, and the diverse group brought the strength of the diversity. That's the essence of who we are, that diversity. Yes, we're different. When you try to make those differences a weakness, you go right to the core of what this country is. And that's the tension that you feel out there right now. We are one people. We are one nation. We are one state. And we celebrate the differences. And we celebrate the diversity. And we've come as far as we've come because we focus on the commonalities and the similarities, not on the differences. And we find ways to build bridges and not build walls among each other. So join me, please. Let's take a moment of silence for the lives that have been lost over the past few days. And for those who are inclined, say a prayer that the worst is behind us. Thank you. We have just finished our legislative session in Albany, for those of you who pay very close attention. Hence, Senator Griffo and Assemblyman Brindisi are back home. Legislative session goes from January to June, 6 months. Feels like 6 years, but it's really not. No, I'm kidding. If every day is a pleasure dealing with the legislature. But when they look back at this legislative session and the anger and the static of the moment is gone, this is going to be one of the most productive legislative sessions that this state has ever seen. We really got a tremendous amount of important work done that's going to make a difference for this state. More funding for education than any time in the history of the state. We did a tax cut where the middle class now pays the lowest income tax rate in 70 years, believe it or not. We raised the minimum wage, more economic development money for upstate New York, a lot of good work. But there were 3 initiatives that we passed that were frankly most important to me because I believe they're going to be most impactful on people's lives. First, we came up with a comprehensive plan to battle heroin and opioid addiction, which is a scourge all across this state. And we took on the insurance companies and we said, you pay for the treatment for a person who needs the treatment, and no more of these games with the insurance company where a person who's in desperate need of drug treatment can't get it. So the heroin program we were very excited about. The paid family leave program I'm very excited about. And this breast cancer legislation that we signed and that we're talking about today. Now, and I believe this breast cancer legislation is literally going to save lives and also set a model for this nation. One of the great attributes of New York is when you do something in New York, it helps New Yorkers, but people around the country also notice. People look to New York. He says as an arrogant New Yorker. They do. They look to New York. And we can set a precedent, we can set a model, and we're doing that here with breast cancer. I learned about it the hard way. I knew the facts. I knew the information. I had been briefed on it. We talked about it. But there's nothing like then living through it the way we've been living through it this past year. Because it's not just a medical illness. It takes over your life. It takes over your entire being. It's a medical problem. It's an emotional problem. It's a family issue. And it can be debilitating. And one of the moments that is seared in my memory was when we were doing one of the first briefings with the doctor. The doctor said, well, we're lucky because we caught it early. And that is really the only thing you can do with breast cancer, is catch it early. And he said, we're lucky that we caught it early. And I thought to myself, lucky because you caught it early, why should anyone ever be unlucky? If the rate of cure is so much higher when it's detected early, why don't we make sure everyone goes for the screening and gets detected early? It shouldn't be luck. Not in this day, not in this state. Everyone should have that screening on time, so God forbid you get it, we catch it early. And then we started to talk about, well, what are the obstacles to getting screened? And why aren't women getting screened? About 30% of the women aren't going for screenings when the medical professionals would recommend that they go for screenings. And we had a lot of conversations, and it came back to 2 issues. always the same two issues. It's time and it's money. It's time because I have the kids and I'm working and I'm taking care of a home. And when I can go, the hospital and the clinics are closed. So the first thing this law says is the hospitals and the clinics have to stay open 4 more hours per week after 5 o'clock in the evening and on weekends. So when women can get this screening, the hospitals and the clinics are open to make sure they can actually accommodate that. And the second issue was money. Now, New Yorkers are insured because of recent actions, but there's still a deductible and still a copay. And I can't tell you how many women said to me, I don't want to make my family pay for the copay. I don't want to make my family pay for the deductible. The economy is tight. We have a lot of bills. And I don't know that it's definitely necessary, so I don't want to put my family through the expense. What this bill does, the only state in the nation to do it, it has the insurance companies waive any deductible and any copay, so there is no cost to the woman to be screened and no cost for any follow-up tests that are required after the screening. First of its kind in the country. And that's why we say get screened, no excuses. Because the two big problems, well, I don't have time. It's solved. Weekend hours, evening hours. Well, I don't want to pay the expense. There is no expense. So there is no reason not to do it. And that is our message today. To Sandra Lee, who I have watched over the past year go through this. You know, I believe you don't really know a person until you see a person under pressure, and until you see a person react when times are really tough. When things are going great, it's easy to be happy and be up and be supportive. Especially when you have a partner like me, who's just always a joy and easy and such a pleasure. Maybe not always. But how a person reacts when things get hard, that's when you see what they're really made of. And when that diagnosis we first heard the diagnosis, it was shock and fear. When they say that word cancer, you know, your heart stops beating. It's your worst nightmare. And it's not quick, and it's not fast, and it's not easy. It goes on and on and on. And it's not just physical, it's emotional. There's a social issue to it. You have to explain it to people. You have to tell people. Some women are ashamed of it. They try to keep it a secret, and they don't tell anyone that they're going through it. Why anyone would ever be ashamed, I have no idea. But some people have that reaction. To watch Sandra go through this, to go through it with her, she got stronger and smarter and more resilient. And as she was going through it, she said, how do I use this experience to help other women? And how do I document this so when other women go through this situation, they'll have somewhere to turn and all this advice we've gotten and all the homework we've done can be shared. And that was her instinct. Let me see how I can help other people as I'm going through this. And that really is such a glimpse of who she is as a person. And over the past year, I've seen her grow and get better and get stronger and get more beautiful. And I have such tremendous respect for her and for what she's doing. So, our message today is very simple. 15,000 women in the state of New York will be newly diagnosed with breast cancer this year. 15,000 women. Get screened, please. Don't put it off. Early detection is everything. When you look at the rates of cure and the rates of cases that are not cured, it all comes back to when they were detected. This is the first legislation of its kind in the nation. No other state is doing this. There's no reason not to get screened, but you have to take the first step. We're taking this motorcycle ride to make that point in somewhat dramatic fashion because I want to capture people's attention on this. I want them to take note, and I want them to think about it. And not just women, the husbands, the brothers, the children. Ask your mother, ask your sister, ask your wife, when was the last time you got screened? When does your doctor think you should get screened? And let me help you, I'll drive you, let's get it done, I'll stay home, whatever it takes. You have to take the first step. We've done everything that we can, and I'm proud of what we've done. But now we need the women of this state to be smart and take advantage of the best program in this country. Thank you, and God bless you.
Once more for our great governor, please. And the great shining example of great courage and strength, Sandra Lee. We thank you all for joining us here today. Remember, get screened, no excuses. The motorcycle ride's next stop is 65 miles west to central New York. For anybody else that's joining along, getting the word out, get screened, no excuses. Thank you all for being here today. God bless you.